Zach,
Yes?
why are we here at the Gun Runners?
Because I got a bunch of gold bars I gotta spend on stuff.
Well, I thought we were hoarding those.
Hold up. I just noticed that my microphone audio is not right. Give me a sec. Sorry about that. My mic crashed on me. That's a unique thing to have crash. Also, you need to tell me how my audio is. Is it clear? Is it loud enough? I know you guys never tell me when my microphone's doing the low quality thing, so I never find out till after the stream, but I have to ask just in case someone actually does it sometime. Anyways, back to the reaction.
Agreed to never spend them.
Mike, there's no reason to be miserly. We can spread the wealth around.
We were gonna hold on to them as a memento of our various adventures.
I will always hold our adventures near and dear to my heart. And these gold bars are heavy and they're starting to hurt my back. 9mm pistol, 9mm submachine gun, anti-material rifle, assault carbine. Yeah, that's your typical cowboy revolver. Now, a normal person, someone that is not as well trained in firearms as me, would not be able to reload this as quickly as I can.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Too bad there was no speed loader for it.
So, this gun is based on the Colt Single Action Army.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Firing at that wall is gonna cause a ricochet. Someone's gonna get hurt here.
You have to be really good to go that
Yeah,
fast.
it does get really sore. Reloading it that quickly is something that would take a lot of practice.
An incredible amount of
Really old
practice.
design, been around for quite a long time.
Colt is a very reliable name.
Well, I mean, they were. We're not going to get into that right now.
Okay.
They did actually.
Yeah, for those who don't know, if you buy a modern Colt, yeah, don't expect too much from it.
Actually make this a single action, which is interesting. Every time you fire it, you pull the hammer back. Because that's how this gun would actually work, you know?
What would it be if it wasn't single action?
It would be double action.
You have to pull the hammer back every time you want to fire a bullet.
Yep, that is true.
Seems like that's also going to get tiring on your thumb.
Not really. It's not too heavy.
For all the shooting we do, maybe.
One of the fun things about these is that they don't have a disconnector on the hammer, which basically means that if you just hold down the trigger and pull back the hammer and let go of it, it will just fire. So that means you can do like in the old cowboy movies where you can fan the hammer and just hold down the trigger and just go pow, 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 and fire like 6 rounds one after another.
Why don't you do that?
I haven't practiced doing that, and I don't want the recoil to jam the hammer into the back of my left hand.
It would hurt the palm of your hand, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
it's already so damaged from Mario Party.
It's I hadn't even thought about that. My God. Remember how they used to sell the gloves for Mario Party so that you could do the thing where you had to spin the analog sticker out?
I have no idea what they're talking about here.
Man.
Yes, let's discuss the Nintendo 64's shitty controllers.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, you know how you had 3 arms for each prong? What, you didn't? Oh, okay.
This I know what they're talking about.
You'd use the middle prong and the right prong, and then 3 years later you'd find a game that would use the D-pad, so you'd use the left prong, but the D-pad had gotten all crusty from disuse.
Yeah, man, that would happen a lot.
Why did they fall out of disuse? It's because it's not double action.
That's part of it, and also just because of how long it took to reload this.
I can see how that would be an issue.
Yeah, it does take a while to reload it. And it's, I mean, you know, it's a design that's from the early 1800s. It's not gonna last forever. New guns came out.
It might be slower than a semi-auto rifle, but hey, it's still faster than a blunderbuss.
Up until this was created, repeating guns were a thing, but not really. This was like the first viable repeating firearm.
Ah, so just like the Nintendo 64.
I don't know. There's several that actually.
Technology has surpassed it.
Technically, there were a bunch of other viable repeating firearms dating back to like the 1500s. But the issue was that they were decently expensive and took a long time to load. But they were quite viable in terms of actual use. The N64 was a cheese grater, and one of the games, you put your palm on the analog stick and spun, literally eating your hand alive. I guess I just never played those specific games on N64. I played like Star Fox and Legend of Zelda and Mario 64 and Diddy Kong Racing. Yeah, I guess I just never played Mario Party, I guess. Oh. I played Smash Brothers. We played a ton of Smash Brothers. So don't start.
There are still people that will tell you about how great a single-action revolver is, and to be fair, they're still very good guns.
Yeah, the same people that like Bomberman 64.
Yeah.
The multiplayer was fun.
Next gun. The 44 Magnum revolver. I believe it's based on a Smith & Wesson Model 19.
You can't fool me. That's the exact same gun.
No, it's different. See, this one's double action. You don't have to pull the hammer back on it every time, but you can.
I guess, if you wanted to make your thumb sore. Oh, holding the gun sideways, gonna be styling.
Yeah, I'm leaning around cover to shoot.
A whole half an inch.
Yeah. Eject the rounds out of it and put new rounds in.
Hooray! It can be speed loaded, sped load.
I personally prefer top break over the swing out style, where the whole gun just sort of folds forward. That is my personal preference, even though I don't actually own any ones like that.
How's that for futuristic? It was invented by a guy that was known for designing just weird Wildcat cartridges. He basically just kept taking like 44-40 Smith & Wesson, 45 Colts, and he just kept taking those and just trying to pack more powder into it and making them more powerful. He kept pestering Smith & Wesson and saying, I'm making these cartridges that are really powerful. Can you guys, like, make me a frame that can actually handle this? He just kept pestering Smith & Wesson over and over and over until eventually Smith & Wesson was like, fine, if it'll get you to shut up, here, it's a K-frame revolver. Have fun, buddy.
There you go.
So
my bullets are too strong. Your gun is too weak.
I need more power.
I don't want to use your baby gun.
44 Magnum was just created by a guy that wouldn't stop pestering Smith & Wesson until they made him a gun in the caliber he wanted.
Hooray, now I can go squirrel shooting.
For the longest time, 44 Magnum was the most powerful Magnum cartridge that you could buy.
Because 50 cal hadn't been designed yet.
Well, not in revolvers anyway.
No, that would come later, the 50 cal revolvers.
Yeah, that would come later.
The ones that break your arm.
They don't break your arm, but they're definitely not pleasant to shoot. We've moved from a...
There is something to be said that Smith & Wesson actually listened and said, all right, fine, we'll do it. There's something to be said that Smith & Wesson actually listened to the customer asking for it and made it.
A single action revolver to a single and double action revolver. So this one you can either fire it by just pulling the trigger and then the hammer moves backwards and then forwards, or you can fire it by pulling the hammer back and then firing it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that on this one for reasons that I refuse to explain to you.
Yes, certainly not technological limitations of the game.
Yeah, certainly not that. I just don't feel like doing it. Behold the 10mm pistol!
Yeah, I think everybody is familiar with that weapon.
Everybody, anyone that has played this game for 5 minutes is aware of what the 10mm pistol is.
Yes, it's given to you by the good doctor, which he shouldn't do because you're not supposed to just give away guns.
You're not supposed to do that. And also, he's a doctor. Ever heard of the Hippocratic Oath? Do no harm. arm. Just gave a guy a gun.
Lots of ways to save.
I was about to say, he is proactively saving the lives of his patient. Saving the life of his patient by giving them a means to protect themselves. And yes, it would be very nice if more companies listen to their customers.
Lives. Sometimes heal patients, sometimes kill bad guys.
The 10 mil pistol is made of like a weird combination of several different guns. The slide is kind of based on the Desert Eagle.
Look, it reminds me of a USP.
A little bit. It's kind of got that to it.
Just because of that flashlight underneath the barrel.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, which this isn't a flashlight. It's like part of the gun. I don't fully understand it.
So they just wanted a gun that's a little top heavy, I guess?
They wanted it to be chunky for some reason. It's in 10 millimeter. The calibers in this game are a little weird. They don't like fully make sense. And also the shell casings that come out of this gun are absolutely gigantic. I mean, it looks like a grenade shell casing is coming out of there when I shoot it. Look how big that thing is.
That's true.
It's like the size of my dang finger.
By the way, thank you for spraying me with all this brass.
You're welcome.
10 millimeter is not a common caliber.
Yep.
In real life it is. It's
Yeah.
decently common in real life.
Is it? I
Yeah.
feel like I hear a lot about 9 mil, but not a lot about 10 mil.
It's not as
9mm is the one that everyone knows about, that even if you're not into guns, 10mm is almost as well known and popular as 45 ACP, which has only relatively recently itself been overtaken by 9. And as was discussed yesterday, 10 mil is generally seen as a law enforcement type round, a heavy defensive round. So it's pretty popular with a lot of people just because of that. Bethesda doesn't know how to make guns. Oh yes. No, Bethesda knows nothing about guns. Yeah, up to like 10mm, of course.
as common as 9mm, but it's still common. There's a lot of guns that are chambered in 10mm.
Also,
Yeah,
bears and
anything
moose.
popularized by modern culture.
I mean, there's Glocks that are in 10mm. The Bren 10 is a 10mm handgun.
Also, hi, welcome.
Smith & Wesson has made several guns in 10mm. There's quite a few guns that are in 10mm. It's very popular as a hunting or defense cartridge against bears.
I know it's bigger than 9 mil, but that doesn't mean it's good against bears.
No, it is.
Is it?
Yeah, 10mm is actually a decent cartridge against bears. There's a lot of brush pilots in Alaska that carry a 10 mil.
But not 9 mil because it's too weak? It's only a 1 millimeter difference.
Yeah, but the cartridge itself is smaller.
Well, you're not firing the cartridge.
No, but the cartridge of 10mm has a lot more powder behind it.
Ah, so it has a lot more power behind
Yes,
it.
it has more power behind it, and that's why. Also, the bullet itself is substantially heavier. Even though it's only 1mm bigger in diameter, the bullet itself is longer and heavier.
They should probably mention the girth of the bullet instead of just the length.
The actual cartridge is 9x19mm. I'm trying to remember the exact nomenclature for 9x21, but 9x21 is a cartridge that's used almost exclusively in, like, Italy.
Wouldn't that be better for shooting bears? Because it's longer and more powerful?
Not necessarily. It might be faster, but I don't know. You're getting into like stuff that I can't really remember off the top of my head, man.
The mathematics of bullets?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not fully versed in that. But 10mm is actually a good cartridge. It's like a defensive cartridge against bears because of the power it has behind it.
Okay.
This is the 12mm pistol.
Wait, this is the 12.7 millimeter, so that's the 50 cal.
Yeah, this is a 50 cal pistol. To be honest, I don't know why they didn't just put a Desert Eagle in this game. I don't entirely know what this pistol is supposed to be based off of. It's like, oh my god, that barrel is way too big for a 50 cal. That's like
That is not a half-inch barrel. Not my 21 is the same as 9x19, but legal for European stone. Okay. Yeah, that is not a half-inch barrel. And understand that when they say 50 cal, they don't necessarily mean 50 BMG, which is the big one. You can get bullets that are 50 caliber in diameter with significantly smaller cartridges, like 50 Beowulf and 50 Action Express, with 50 AE generally being the pistol 50 caliber, which is still absolutely nuts as a pistol round, but it is very, very small compared to the 50 cal that most people think of.
a freaking 20mm barrel.
It almost looks like you're firing grenades from it.
I feel like when you hold onto this gun, you're supposed to get a nice high grip on it.
But you're holding it down to the very bottom of the handle.
I'm holding it down to the bottom of the handle because I don't want to get bit by this weird-looking slide that looks like it came off of a Formula 1 car.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, if I do get a high grip on it, that is definitely going to hit me in the hand, and I can tell you, that probably won't feel good.
Hey, you got gloves on, it'll be fine.
9mm pistol!
50 cal BMG, the bullet that can kill someone when used as a knife. Yeah, probably.
Oh,
That's a much more normal-looking handgun.
this is a very normal-looking handgun.
Stop
and
repeating me!
Indeed it is, because it's based on the Browning High Power. In fact, it's actually incredibly accurate for a Browning High Power.
It's double action too!
No, this one's single action.
No, you don't have to keep on reloading the hammer.
But it's still single action, though. But single action is just refers to hammer movement.
Uh-huh.
If a gun is double action, that means the hammer has to go backwards, which is the first action, and forwards, which is the second action.
The hammer's doing that exact thing. It's going forwards and hitting the bullet, and then...
So this hammer is only going forwards, and then the gun fires.
Uh-huh. But then the end position is backwards.
Just think about the steps the hammer has to go through in order for the gun to fire. Don't think about after that.
Oh, okay.
So for a double action gun to fire, the hammer has to go backwards, forwards.
Well, this gun has to go backwards and forwards too, except the backwards motion is already prepped.
What happens after the gun fires is not part of whether the gun is single or double action.
Only
Until the bullet leaves the gun.
So only revolvers can be double action.
No, oh my god.
Oh, is that a problem for you?
No, other handguns can be double action.
But then you have to pull the hammer back.
No, you don't. Pulling the trigger on the gun is pulling the hammer backwards, and then it snaps forward.
Yeah, Mike is just trying to get shot again.
Action.
This is a single action handgun.
Because you pull the trigger and it goes forward, backward, really fast.
Because it just goes forward, and then the gun fires.
Yes, and
Don't
then it goes...
think about the part of it going backwards.
It goes backwards really fast after it's
Don't
fired.
think about the thing of the hammer going backwards after the gun. The only reason the hammer goes backwards is because the slide comes backwards, ejects the shell casing, and cocks the hammer.
How would a double action pistol like this work?
You pull the trigger, the hammer slowly moves backwards, and then once it reaches the break point, the hammer slaps forwards and fires the gun.
So how do triple action revolvers work?
Those are not a thing.
What if there's like a hammer that jiggles around a bit?
Then your handgun probably needs to be serviced. The only downside to the Browning High Power, or at least that I've noticed, is if you get a good like high grip on it, like you're kind of supposed to, sometimes when the hammer comes backwards, it does have a tendency to bite the webbing of your hand.
1911s do that too.
That's why you wear gloves. I see you have a small hole in the side of your gun. Is that a safety?
The hole is what holds the firing pin in place. Once you get the firing pin and the spring installed in the slide of the handgun, you drive the roll pin through it, and that's what keeps the firing pin and spring inside the slide of the handgun.
So if you remove that pin, the gun can't fire. So it is kind of a safety.
Yeah, it's a safety in that the gun won't function anymore. It's a safety much in the same way that if you remove the engine of your truck won't work anymore.
I'm putting it in park by taking out the V6!
12.7mm submachine gun.
The spur on the 1911 is there to prevent that, correct? There are models of 1911s that are not made with the spur. Most of them are crappy knockoffs. But they are there.
That's beefy.
So this is the... Oh, why am I looking straight? What is happening here? So this is a 12.7mm submachine gun. It's somewhat based on the P90.
So why do you use this all the time? You love the P90 so much.
I do love the P90, but I don't really care for this gun.
Because it doesn't have the iconic look?
Yeah, kind of. It does have the same top-fed magazine as the P90, but beyond that, it's not really very similar. I also find it strange that it's in 50 cal for some reason. I don't fully understand why it's in 50. I mean, it does have a lot of kinetic energy behind it. Also, this sight radius is incredibly short. Having a longer
Triple action revolver, the hammer wriggles around. This sounds like an up-2 gun. Oh boy.
sight radius theoretically increases accuracy, but for some reason, the rear sight is attached to the front of the magazine, and your front sight is right there, which only gives you like 3 inches of sight radius.
Yeah, now that you bring that up.
Also, there is no perfect manufacturing of magazines. Just about every gun that uses a magazine-based sight, the sight picture changes from magazine to magazine. I too like using the P90, at least in some games. Yeah, the P90 is generally a very nice gun. Doesn't do a lot of damage because tiny little bullets. Well, relative to what it is. Well, no, I guess 5.7 isn't that tiny for rifle stuff, but it's also short. Anyways, it's a personal defense weapon. But that 50-round magazine is really nice. Up to takes better care up to his firearms. Thank you very much.
That up, it seems silly. Also, why is it called a radius? Should be called a sight length, right?
I've just always heard it referred to as sight radius.
Radius refers to circles.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense in this context.
I don't know why.
It is generally referred to as sight radius.
It is called that.
I also don't know why it's called that.
For it that I don't understand, or maybe there isn't a reason for it, and it's just everybody just keeps parroting that word.
Okay.
Just like stopping power.
Okay. Well, if they find more guns like this, I hope they improve their sight radii.
Yes.
Maybe when they say sight radius, they mean the size of the sight's peeping hole.
No, they're referring to how far between the front and rear sight.
Maybe you are, because you're using that term incorrectly.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm dumb as hell. I just have like all this autistic knowledge about guns, and then some of it I don't fully understand. So I apologize.
You came out here to buy all these guns and spew all this gun knowledge out towards me, and now I'm making you have self-doubts.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mike. Anyway, so this is partially based on the P90. The magazine definitely looks like a P90 magazine, except that it's made of like opaque plastic, and you can't actually see how many rounds are in there.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. But mostly based on the P90. I don't know what this little tab sticking out of the back is. Maybe that's supposed to be like a release mechanism for a stock, or maybe that's the safety, and the safety is literally an on-off switch.
It could, like a light switch.
Yeah, maybe this thing has a battery-operated safety, which would be real stupid, but it's possible.
Battery-operated safeties?
Yeah.
So the battery has to have juice, otherwise your gun can't fire?
Yeah, basically.
Have you seen many guns like that?
Or it's a fail deadly, and when it runs out of batteries, it just doesn't save the gun anymore. And your gun can just fire, regardless of what the safety's doing.
No, there's not really a whole lot of them. Some people tried to make, like, biometric guns. The guns that couldn't fire unless the owner was the one holding the gun. But the problem with those is you generally have to have a battery in it in order for it to work, which usually means that that's the weakest part of the gun, and therefore you can just make the gun fire by...
hot wiring the battery area?
Like hot wiring it. Or in one instance, there was a gun that was a biometric gun. You had to have like a little tiny microchip in your hand that would tell the gun that you were allowed to shoot it. But the way they got the gun to not work when the biometrics weren't present was by having a tiny solenoid block the trigger. And then someone figured out that you can literally just hold a magnet to the solenoid and it will allow the gun to fire. So, kind of defeated the whole point. If this was
also, about half of the biometric battery-operated guns are fail deadly, so when the battery dies, you can just pull the trigger and it works. Not the first time I've heard of electric safety, mostly... yep. Okay, yeah.
Actually based on the P90. You see that weird kind of trapezoidal looking
I think it's
part
half.
right there?
The part in between the trigger and hand holder?
Yeah, I would assume that's where the shell cases would come out of if this was truly based on a P90. But since it's basically just the magazine that's based on the P90, it's kind of odd that the shell cases come out of there. Also, I don't think that bolt would be able to move back far enough in order for the shell cases to come out. But now I'm just getting nitpicky. Also, if this was actually based on a P90, that magazine would be 50 rounds. I don't know why it's 21, probably because the bullets are bigger.
They had to make room for the part of the gun that shoots bullets out the wrong way.
Yeah, that shoots the shell. They had to actually... Oh, you know what I just thought of? That weird trapezoidal thing at the bottom?
Yes.
That's actually where the empty shells are stored. So when you fire the gun, the shell casings disappear, and this thing dispenses empty shell casings out the side of the gun.
Is that a real fact?
No, I just made that up.
You had me going.
Yeah, you have to replace the magazine with the actual ammunition, and then you have to replace the magazine that has the fake ammunition in it.
This is the futuristic guns. They don't want you to leave brass lying around. Picking it up by hand is so tedious, so they collect it in the area there.
I mean, there are actually brass catchers that go on guns. That is a real thing.
Mm-hmm. Are they often built into the gun?
No, usually they're not. We'll go to the anti-material rifle. Sure, why not? So it's based on the PGM Hecate or Hectate, I can never remember how to pronounce it, which is a bolt-action 50 caliber anti-material rifle.
Ah, so it's not full auto, obviously. It's not even semi-auto.
No, it's bolt action. Yeah, it's a French anti-material rifle, which I don't know if you noticed, but we ain't in France.
Right. That explains why it's so rare, though.
I mean, I suppose it's possible that somehow one or two of them ended up in the wasteland, but it seems like everybody in the NCR has this thing. Yeah, does a lot of damage, very slow reload speed, you know.
What sniper rifle do you think they would have instead?
The Barrett 50 cal sniper rifle. They could have just made a bolt action 50 cal sniper rifle. I suspect the reason they chose this one is because it's a somewhat futuristic looking bolt action. It does look very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It does have a very commanding presence for a bolt action rifle in this game. And I suspect the reason it's in here is because of how it looks.
It's got that long fuck you barrel on it.
It's got a long barrel on it. It's got a big old frickin' like tanker muzzle brake on the end of it. It is a very commanding looking gun. I feel like the magazine is a little bit too short for a 50 cal, but we'll gloss over that.
I've always been a fan of bolt action rifles. There are other types like the lever action and semi-auto rifles, but I think the tactile feel of the bolt action, it's so satisfying.
If a bolt action is well made, it is incredibly satisfying to run the action on one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I will agree with you on that one. Bolt actions can be very satisfying to use, but they're kind of outdated.
It's not good for combat because it can't spit lead.
Yeah, pretty much. The assault carbine. This is the same thing that you got.
Yeah, the M16A2.
So the assault carbine in this game is not based on an M16A2. It's more likely based on
the A4 because the barrel is shorter?
Kind of like the XM177 or the GAU5A.
What are the distinguishing features?
Basically, it's a short-barreled M16A1. But this one's interesting because it does have the forward assist and a brass deflector on it. But it has the little collapsible stock from the 177 or the GAU5A. If we're gonna oversimplify it, it's pretty much based on the M16, yes. It's an AR-15 receiver with a collapsible stock and a shorter barrel on it. I don't really know why the game is like, oh, this is 5mm, instead of saying that it's 5.56, because that's what caliber it actually would be.
Right.
But the game says it's in 5mm. It's just for gameplay purposes.
They made gameplay worse by not making it 5.56 because there's 5.56 ammo everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not really sure why they made this one a different caliber. It would be in the exact same caliber as the service rifle. Battle rifle! It's
My guess is it's someone who... No, but wait, that won't work. I was gonna say maybe it's someone who doesn't know anything about guns trying to model the difference between 5.56 and 2.23. And thinking that one is smaller in diameter instead of length. But 2.23 is the civilian round, so that doesn't really work for the battle, for a combat version of the M16, basically. For those who don't know, 2.23, is a civilian version of 5.56, and the specific differences is that the 2.23 is ever so slightly shorter, just barely, than the 5.56. Now, this means that this is such a slight difference that it means that 2.23 can be fired out of a rifle chambered in 5.56. Which is why most these days are just made in 5.56, and so you could just shoot either. But if it's built well, 5.56 should not actually fully chamber in 2.23. The issue being most tolerances are not so fine as to prevent that, meaning a 5.56 round will still chamber and fire out of a 2.23 chamber, which is not good because they're not designed to take the higher pressure of 5.56, and detonations can happen. Probably a game balance issue because 5mm ammo is in shorter supply than 5.56 by design, as I recall. So the better guns use it. Yeah, maybe it's a special hot 5mm round, so it's slightly smaller but a lot more powder. That would be one way to do it then, if it's that much more of a powerful round.
M1 Garand.
Oh, not exactly a battle rifle.
It is by definition a battle rifle.
Technically, the M1 Garand would be considered a battle rifle if you go by like weapon designation standards. Yeah, it's a battle rifle. A battle rifle is technically a rifle that's in like a 30 caliber cartridge, and generally battle rifles are semi-automatic, though there are full auto versions of battle rifles. The M16 would not be considered a battle rifle. The M16 would be considered an assault rifle by military standards.
Mm-hmm. For some reason, I thought it was bolt action or something.
Nope. The M1 Garand is a semi-auto rifle. It was used in World War II. I think it was technically used in the Korean War, though I'm pretty sure the M14 was around by then.
Mm-hmm.
It does give that really satisfying ping that I love so much. Yeah, it's basically an M1 Garand. I feel like they did a pretty good job modeling this gun in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel like it might be a little too short if I'm going to be nitpicky. It does feel like it might be a little bit too short, and also the bolt is, when you're using it in first person, this area right down in here, that's right in just in front of the front sight, that area is like wrong. It shouldn't look exactly like that, but whatever.
Feels like rainwater could get trapped in that pit.
Yeah, it doesn't actually look like that in real life. It's much more flush. The brush gun!
Okay, before we move on again, up to Thought 223 Remington was the original cartridge, NATO powered it up. I do not know, possibly. Also, he mentioned that 30 caliber is battle rifle and smaller is assault rifle. Technically, it is any intermediate cartridge, of which there are 30 caliber intermediate cartridges. The AK-47 uses one, the 7.62 by 39. And the difference is the fact that while it is a 30 caliber bullet, so it's still 0.3 inches in diameter, it uses a much shorter cartridge. There's much less powder in it. Also, generally speaking, there are plenty of full-size cartridges that actually have a shorter bullet itself than the AK round. But a lot of the full-size 30 caliber rounds are quite long and pointy. The AK round is not quite so much. But yeah, it's intermediate cartridge, so you can get them in 30 caliber. That is still intermediate cartridge just because it's short. And yeah, so then you get the battle rifles, which are pretty much 37. Yeah, the example is the 230 caliber Russian round, since we're just there, the 7.62 by 39 and the 7.62 by 54R. That's so the difference is 39 millimeters versus 54 millimeters. And just for the record, the R just means it's rimmed. So at the very base of the cartridge, it has a rim that sticks out around it instead of being a straight-walled cartridge. And yeah, battle rifles are generally semi-automatic, but not always full caliber. So typically a full-size 30 caliber, since 30 is the common one. But there is some variance in much less common, but there are other rifle calibers. Assault rifles use intermediate cartridges and, very important, are fully automatic. That's something a lot of people don't get. It must be fully automatic if you're going to call it an assault rifle. If it is semi-automatic, it is not an assault rifle. It does not matter what it is chambered in.
Brush gun is a weird name.
It's called the brush gun because you're using it when you're walking through the brush.
I would have guessed as much.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that the brush gun is based on a Marlin 336. I don't know if it's a bug or an oversight, but you can interrupt the lever animation by just tapping the trigger as fast as possible. And the gun just teleports down to the last point.
That is an interesting bug.
I don't know a whole lot about the Marlin 336. I apologize for that.
It didn't get invited to your tea parties?
Nah, I never invited it to my tea parties. But I find it kind of funny that it has like one of the super adjustable diopter rear sight. That's kind of neat. Those are actually things that existed like in cowboy times. And then they still left the rear sight on the barrel, so that's kind of fun.
Oh, so you see through 3 sights.
Yeah, you're looking through 3 sights. Diopter sights are really good for...
For the record, I have seen guns that have a diopter that's just left the regular iron sights on. So when you're shooting it like he showed, you're looking through 3 sights. The difference is, though, most of those are diopters with a ladder on them, so you can raise it up for farther ranges. And then when you're raising the... What happened to my arm tracking? It was fine. Oh, I hate this. Anyways, so you can then raise it up, and then that middle sight just kind of drops out of the picture as it goes.
For target shooting, less good for hunting shooting. Well, like this kind of diopter rear sight, anyway. So, cowboy repeater.
It's the exact same thing. Lever action.
No, this one is actually based on...
Yeah, see how that has a ladder? The kind that have that then goes higher so that you can shoot farther.
Let me look at the outside of this gun. This one is based on the Winchester 1892 lever action rifle.
When Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
The Winchester 1892 was designed by, once again, John Moses Browning.
Oh no.
Go figure. Winchester wanted him to design like a new lever action rifle.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, oh, we'll give you like 6 months to design this thing. We want it to be in this caliber, and we want it to hold like X amount of rounds, yada yada.
Did they not have teams work on this? It's just one dude?
Back in the day, it was pretty much just like one guy would work on like new designs. Anyway, they told him, you got like this amount of time to do it. John Browning designed this rifle from him having the first thought about it to having a functioning prototype was 30 days.
30 sounds like it would be pretty standard.
No, it takes a long time to design a gun.
I don't
Yes.
know. It doesn't seem impressive to me.
Most guns, it probably takes up...
Mike's just trying to get shot.
Well, what corners did he cut to make this?
He didn't cut any corners. That's the thing. It works incredibly well. John Browning was just that good at designing weapons. I want you to appreciate what a prolific designer John Browning was.
I know he made a lot of guns. Give me a numerical amount.
41 different
Did get a
firearms
bonus,
John
yes.
Browning designed.
Okay.
A lot of those gun designs are ones that are still used today. This rifle based on the Winchester 1892 is one that he designed that's still being used today.
Okay.
Most gun designers get maybe one. That's not even assuming that gun will still be around in 20 years.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They say he's good, so he makes a gun. So they adopt that gun because it's John Browning.
Back when he was designing guns, he wasn't exactly like the most well-known gun designer. This is now. People are like, yeah, John Browning designed... The Colt 1911 was designed by John Browning, and here we are in the year 22 whatever. I can't remember what year it is, because it's an apocalypse and every day is exactly the same. But here we are, this far in the future, and we're still using 1911s.
Mm-hmm.
People are still using this cowboy gun that was designed by John Browning in 1892.
Yeah, so he made a timeless gun.
He made a lot of timeless guns. The 50 caliber machine gun was designed by John Browning.
All right.
50 BMG was designed by John Browning.
That's impressive, sure.
There's a gun company that's named after John Browning. Fun story about I used to own one of these that was in 357 mag.
I was just waiting for him to get shot. Just a fun little factoid about the Browning family, actually. Towards the end of his life, because he made so many guns and shot so many guns demoing them, John Browning is having hearing problems. His son is the man who invented the standardized silencer. And I have gone back to calling it silencer instead of suppressor because that's what he called it. He called it a silencer. And he made it specifically because of all the hearing problems his father was having. He made it so that his father could keep shooting guns and not, and that other people could shoot guns and not have hearing problems. That is the original intended purpose of the silencer, is to let you be able to go out and shoot without damaging your hearing. And I just think it's really, really, there's something heartwarming about the fact that it was made by a son worried about his father.
Magnum, which I think is the same caliber this one is in, to be completely honest. I used to own one of these rifles in 357 Magnum, and I took it apart to replace some of the springs on the inside of it. Because I like to tinker with things.
Yeah, I'm aware.
I took it apart because I wanted to figure out how it worked, and I wanted to smooth out a bunch of the parts. The one I had bought was from a not great company, so I kind of had to fix it after I bought it to make it function better. I took it apart, and then I couldn't figure out how to get back together, and it was basically 30 minutes of me going, God damn it, John Moses Browning, you daft idiot! Why would you design the gun like this? And then somebody was like, why don't you just put an empty shell casing in there, and then that'll make it easier to put back together. I'm like, that's stupid! Why would you design a gun with a... Oh my god, it goes back together flawlessly as soon as you put an empty shell casing in here.
How?
John Moses Browning, you brilliant fucking genius.
How does that work?
Basically, in order to put part of the bolt back together, this spring has to be compressed. And if you don't put an empty shell casing in there, you kind of have to have 6 hands because you have to jam a hand down in there to compress the spring and another hand to hold part of the spring down. But if you put an empty shell casing in the chamber and then just snap the bolt closed, it holds everything together and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
I can see how that would be a problem on the battlefield. I need to get this gun working as fast as I can, but I don't have any empty shells. No!
It's not a repair you would do on the battlefield. It's a repair you would do at home. Winchester 1892 is what is the cowboy gun in this game. Really good lever action, works incredibly well. If you've never owned one or never fired one, try it. It's a lot of fun. It makes you feel like shooting lever actions makes you feel like a cowboy. It's so fun.
If that's the sensation you want, you could just put spurs on and a cowboy hat.
Yeah, but there's something about firing a lever action gun that just makes you feel like John Wayne. You're like, yeehaw, partner! You lead your last haw! Bam, bam! It's super fun. I love shooting them. It's great.
All right.
Fat Man! The Fat Man is, in principle, based off of the Davy Crockett recoilless rifle system, which is a tactical nuclear weapon.
Right.
I think they're a terrible idea.
They are.
And apparently so did the U.S. military, because they actually put all this time and effort into researching and designing the Davy Crockett, and then they went, yeah, no, we probably don't. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to give the military credit for that one because I'm pretty sure the only reason they stopped using the Davy Crockett was because of the limited test ban treaty.
Yeah, okay. They would have kept on going if they could.
Yeah, they would have kept going, except that we had signed an agreement with Russia that said we wouldn't test nuclear weapons above ground anymore.
Davy Crockett violated international treaties.
It was a recoilless rifle that would fire an atomic bomb, and the maximum range was about a mile, and you would still be inside the radiological radius.
They're not called disposable soldiers for nothing.
So much like Davy Crockett, if you actually had to use a Davy Crockett in battle, you're probably gonna die. Yeah. Hunting.
To be fair, that was pretty much the point behind the Davy Crockett anyways, was the Soviet Union is overrunning your position. Use this to knock out as many of them as you can. That was pretty much the idea behind it anyways. And yeah, it was a very large rifle, recoilless rifle they're called, which it fires, but it also has a back blast area, kind of like a rocket launcher, but it's a big bullet instead of a rocket. That fired tiny nuclear warheads. That reached a mile if you got lucky.
Rifle, I've talked about this one before. It's based on a Mauser short action, bolt action rifle.
Pretty dang rusty.
Actually kind of disappointed in myself that I just shot that because I think the thing will explode if I try to do it one more time. So just for safety's sake, we won't shoot this one anymore. This one kind of looks like it was made in someone's garage, if I'm being completely honest. Which it is a post-apocalypse, so that's more than likely.
Yeah, it's still a step above a pipe gun.
Yeah, I would rather have this than a pipe gun, I think. The lever action shotgun is based on the Winchester 1897? No, Winchester 1887. Lever action shotgun's based on the Winchester 1887 shotgun.
Winchester 1997.
No, Winchester 1897. No, 1887. you did that on purpose.
Winchester 1999.
No, stop it. Winchester 1887.
Number.
Winchester 1887.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lever action shotgun. Have I talked about how this is one of the only shotguns that you can has its capacity listed in +2?
You may have.
Yes, Mike once.
I don't remember if I did or didn't mention that, but its capacity is listed as +2.
Can you hold 2 in the barrel?
There's the chamber, right there. Right under it, you can see where the shotgun shell is. You can fill the magazine tube. You can put 1 round in the chamber, and you can actually drop a round on the loading gate and close the bolt to the gun.
Huh.
So you have another shell that is just ready to be loaded. As soon as you fire it and open it, it's going to kick the shell that was out and load the one that was sitting in the loading gate ready to go.
Neat.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that this is one of the few guns that you can do that with.
Yeah, how many other guns do you know that can do that?
There's only a couple other ones I can think of. Some of the Benelli series of guns you can actually, it's called ghost loading, where you can prep 1 round on the loading gate, and then you can put a round in the chamber. But there's not many guns that their capacity can be listed as +2.
If your M16A2 has 2 in the barrel, that's a problem.
That's not good.
That's a really big problem.
Most guns, you don't want them to have 2 rounds.
You might need to take care of that.
Yeah, that's something you might want to look into.
Yes.
You might want to see a gunsmith. Light machine gun. Why is it so big?
That's a saw.
Wow, my face is way too close to that rear sight. You're actually very close. It is primarily based on the M249 saw with a little bit of like the M60 in it. So it's actually really close to kind of both of them. The rear sight is similar to a saw.
If an M60 and a 249 had a baby, that's what it looked like.
You're kind of not wrong, actually. It's very close. The barrel, like especially the heat shield right here, the way the bipod is attached to the barrel and not to the receiver of the gun, the muzzle device on it, and the gas port that's down here, those are all very reminiscent of the M60, but the rear sight, the way the feed tray cover looks, and the stock are all reminiscent of an M249. So it's kind of a combination of the two of them. That's somewhat accurate. Anyway.
Does the charging handle jiggle like that normally?
I suppose it would if you hadn't locked the charging handle into its spot on the receiver. No, it wouldn't normally do that. The 249 and the M60 and the 240 Bravo, I can't really think of any light machine guns that have a reciprocating charging handle. Most of them don't. Most light machine
You have to go back to like World War I, World War II machine guns that really do that regularly as a design thing.
machine guns do not have a reciprocating charging handle.
Okay.
The marksman carbine, I might just have to go into. Oh man, I'm so proud right now.
Look at that gun you're holding. Oh.
Guys, look how cool I look. Look at my cool gun. The marksman carbine is basically it's based on the AR-15. It has an ACOG on the back of it. I know the name of the company that makes that rail system.
Picatinny.
It's based on a Viltor rail system, I believe. It's got a Magpul PRS stock on it. Oddly, the magazine is like one of the 7.62 magazines, and for some reason the charging handle is sticking out of the bolt on the side of it, which is not at all how it would actually work. It's basically an AR-15 with an ACOG on it, though the ACOG looks a little weird. It's got this hood on the top that...
The shark fin?
My guess is... a little weird. It's got this...
Look right here. That's not a standard AR up, which we fair with file in the 1950s. It's not so weird to do a design callback to World War II. Okay, fair. With this solid upper, combined with the fact that it has the side charging handle, this could actually be a bufferless design where the tube in the back doesn't actually have a buffer. Like most AR-15s, the tube sticking out the back has a buffer mechanism as part of the bolt that reciprocates back into that tube with a spring. Bufferless AR-15s don't need that, so they can have nothing in the back, just a flat plate, or they can attach a stock. Some of them have a fake tube just so you can stick standard AR-15 style stocks on them, and instead they have a piston and spring mechanism up here and top, which is how they function. And most AR-15 models have the charging handle here in the back. I don't think I've seen a bufferless mechanism with a rear charging handle. They all have them on one side or the other. So this could actually be, without that and this big block up front where the piston would be, this could actually be a bufferless AR-15.
Hood on the top that
The shark fin.
my guess is originally they were planning on having that be a red dot, and then they realized they couldn't implement having both a red dot and a scope on it and being able to switch immediately which one it was. So instead of redesigning the entire model, they just cover it up, make it black.
Because if you outright removed it, it would be a weight difference.
No, like in the game when they made the model for this.
Oh.
So there is actually an ACOG that has a red dot sight on the top of it, or an iron sight. I actually own an ACOG that has an iron sight built in there, and then there's a front iron sight on it. It's basically so you can use it at very close range. You have iron sights built onto your optic in case 4 times magnification is too much.
Hey dog, I heard you like sights. So you put a sight on your sights. You look down your sight or you're looking down your sight.
Yes. It's a little goofy. I found it kind of funny that they based this off of like the AR-15 or M16 series of guns, but then they made it semi-auto.
Every rifle like that I've encountered is semi-auto.
The M16 has a like burst fire, and that assault carbine is full auto.
The civilian version of that gun is...
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh, I guess it would make sense if it's the marksman carbine. Yeah, it would make sense if it's semi-auto only.
Yeah, because marksmen don't need to have full auto.
Technically, you don't really need full auto on a marksman rifle, so yeah, that would make sense. The minigun. It's called the minigun, but the actual minigun is a little different from this.
It seems like it's a heavy beast to lug around.
There is not the minigun. I am going to correct them there. Minigun just refers to one of a variety of motorized standard rifle caliber or smaller multi-barrel automatic weapons, basically. Minigun just refers to that particular category of weapons. Most people, when they think of a minigun, they think of, I guess, what he's thinking of as the minigun, which is a specific military model. It is... I actually forget what its designation is. Let me see. It is the M134, which is a 30 caliber minigun.
I find it strange they made this gun in 5mm, because that is definitely like a 30 caliber barrel.
A 30 cal?
Yeah, the actual minigun is 7.62 millimeter.
So 7.62 is 30 cal.
Yeah.
What's 5.56?
That is a 5.56. Caliber, it would be 223.
223 caliber?
Yeah. 5.56 would be 223 caliber.
What? Hold on. 50 cal.
Yeah.
30 cal. And then 223 cal?
Yeah. The M16 series of rifle that the military uses is a 22 caliber rifle.
22 caliber? Really?
Yeah, it's 22 caliber. If you want to be exact about it, it is .223 caliber. But yeah, the M16 is a 22 caliber rifle.
I've always hated how there are so many different calibers of weapon. I didn't really make the connection that each caliber has its own millimeter designation as well.
Yeah, it just depends on how you want to designate it. The weird little thing at the bottom, that's where the ammo is, apparently?
Typical Marine, where Mike hates numbers. It's your
Maybe
power
it's the
supply.
backpack holster where you keep the rest of the ammo.
The Army did, for a very short period of time, experiment with making a man-portable version of a minigun. Because usually the minigun is mounted to like a helicopter or on a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it fires so quickly that if this backpack I have on was filled with ammo, I would burn through it in about 5 seconds.
Looking at it now, I think it serves more as a counterweight. You're holding a big gun, and that thing will keep your back straight.
Miniguns need batteries. That's probably a battery.
Guess, or it'll just collapse my entire back and I'll fall onto the ground in a crippled heap.
Yeah, well, we already know that the military doesn't care much for its soldiers' backs.
I forget what the exact firing rate of the minigun is, but it costs about $80 a second to shoot one.
Mm-hmm.
Through legal loopholes, the minigun is not a machine gun.
No.
It has 6 barrels and 6 different bolts. So it's not a machine gun.
It's just 6 guns taped together.
It is 6 different guns that are all firing individually. So technically, you don't need a machine gun license to own a minigun.
What do you need to own?
You need a whole fuck ton of money because they cost about $30,000.
Thank you for the follow, Mastermind. And I think the military actually, yeah, not the military, the ATF has changed that ruling because it's motorized. If you hold down the trigger, it's one trigger pull to continuously fire. Miniguns are now considered machine guns. If you have a manually cranked multi-barrel Gatling gun, because you have to continuously crank it, that is not considered a machine gun because you have to keep cranking it in order for it to work. It is dumb.
Fair.
And also they cost $80 a second to shoot. And you have to put them on a tripod, which costs about $700.
I can see why they don't get used recreationally.
And also you generally need about 6 car batteries to power one. Which, coming back to the thing that I was saying originally, that's why the military experimented with making a man-portable one of these for a very short period of time. And also there's so much recoil on one of those that if you do fire one of these, what generally happens is this. Ah! Now I can't stop! Oh, I'm out of ammo, thank fucking God.
Thank you for shooting me in the leg, by the way.
Well, yeah, it's uncontrollable. That was the point I was trying to bring up. I had to fix one of these once.
Once, yeah?
I was never told how to fix one of these because technically it's an aircraft weapon system. It's not small arms.
No, you don't say!
Yeah. Oddly enough, a howitzer is considered small arms, but this isn't because this is an aircraft weapon system.
Mm-hmm.
So a bunch of SF guys asked me to fix one at one point, and
As a joke, he thinks he's so smart.
well, he knows how to fix weapons. Do you think he could fix this minigun that we got? I don't know what's wrong with the timing on it. And I went, okay, so I took it apart, and much to my shame, couldn't figure out how to put it back together.
Oh, no.
So I had to bring it back to them in several boxes with it just completely disassembled, and I was like, I'm sorry, guys, I couldn't fix it. And they went, oh, whatever, we'll just send it to the airplane guys and just order a new one.
It was worth a shot.
The sawed-off shotgun is, I'm pretty sure they designed it from the movie Mad Max. Again, this is one that looks kind of like that somebody made it in a basement.
Mm.
Most sawed-off shotguns are going to look very similar to this. It's also been apparently set up so it just fires both barrels at once.
Is that not normal?
Not usually. You can wire the triggers together, so is this thing firing slugs? What the? Huh.
Oh, it's firing 2 bullets, all right.
Apparently it's firing slugs. Good lord, that beanbag round did a number on that wall. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's a concerning amount of damage.
Yeah, less lethal, capable of denting brick by 6 inches. Good god.
That is a terrifying beanbag round.
To say about it, I don't think this would be fun to shoot.
Not one-handed, no.
No. Even two-handed, I don't think I would particularly enjoy it.
No. Sawing off the barrel might be good in close quarters combat.
Yeah, it would make it smaller and concealable, but having it fire both barrels at the same time when the barrels are like 6 inches long and you're holding it with one hand, I don't think that would be particularly enjoyable.
Nah.
Yeah. The service rifle. This is definitely based on an M16A1.
Looks like it, yep.
It's got like the triangular handguards. It's got the full stock. We got the, little ring rear sight. I do find it kind of funny that they made them out of wood.
Yeah, not my
Got that
favorite of the M16s.
Yeah, the M16A1 isn't bad.
I have seen.
Oh yeah, it was revolutionary.
I've seen original model M16s with wooden furniture on them though, so not historically inaccurate, if very rare.
The Silence 22 pistol is based off of a Ruger Mark III, I think.
Ooh, a Luger.
No, Ruger, not a Luger.
What's the difference between a Ruger and a Luger?
Ruger is a gun company. Luger is the type of handgun.
Here we go.
Ruger?
No.
Oh, so you're never gonna find a Ruger's Luger.
No. The Ruger Mark III is a 22 series of handguns. This one is integrally suppressed, which is a real thing that exists.
Ah, Tank Cyber, thank you for the follow.
It's not exactly a
Hi and
sound.
welcome.
You fire it in a room, people are gonna hear you do it.
People are going to hear you do it, but 22 is one of the few cartridges that you can feasibly make movie quiet.
Yeah, if there's gonna be any caliber you can suppress, it would be the small one.
There are several things you would have to do. You would have to convert it so the bolt doesn't move. It requires a decent amount of work, but you can actually make them like so quiet that you wouldn't be able to hear one fire in the next room.
Mm-hmm. Surprised they're not used more often, and
interestingly, one of the other rounds, which can be made movie quiet, is at the other end of the pistol spectrum, the mighty 45 ACP.
actual assassinations.
Probably because people that use them successfully aren't discovered that they were using them.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. We got the Silence 22 submachine gun. I think I've talked about this one before.
Wiggle, wiggle, yeah.
It's a 22 caliber submachine gun. The concept behind it was basically, you get enough 22 flying through the air, hitting the same point over and over, you're just going to brute force your way through any body armor that you're shooting at.
Mm-hmm.
And it does work. You do have to get a lot of rounds onto something, but because it's 22, there's virtually no recoil. It's basically a sewing machine. That's a terrible analogy. I mean, it sounds like a sewing machine when you shoot one of these. It's just just
AM 180.
But if it's only 22, it's probably not great for penetration.
No, but I mean, the concept is basically if somebody's wearing body armor, 122 bullet isn't going to go through.
No.
222 bullets might not go through.
Ah, but
when you fire 30 22 bullets and they all hit basically the same spot, eventually it's going to be like punching the same spot over and over again.
Right, because if body armor gets shot once, you have to get new body armor.
The concept works in practice.
And it's great for taking out a lot of people silently.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, 45 ACP rounds are naturally subsonic. 22 is easy to silence. Depending on people, it does kind of depend on which 22 long rifle round you're using. Some of them are actually supersonic, though. The AM 180 actually had a bit. Actually was built. There were models built with built-in suppressor, so you could fire a lot of rounds very, very quickly, very, very quietly. Yeah, 45 ACP is naturally subsonic, and there's some relatively easy ways to make it even quieter. Look at the well rod pistol sometime, and there is a I forget the name, but there's a modern pistol as well that uses that can fire 45 ACP and 9mm in that same kind of way, except it's semi-automatic, and you basically just hear like a little bit of plastic moving from the slide. Curious if the mechanics in the drum load were quiet enough for the silencer to matter. Yes. Technically, still eliminating the crack of the round is itself going to drastically bring down your sound quotient, your sound decibel level, because 22, though very quiet as a bullet, is still very, very quiet. Yeah, I think probably till it gets partially emptied and starts to rattle more, the drum isn't, the drum is still going to be quiet enough. And even then, as a submachine gun firing several hundred rounds per drum, it's like, it's about as quiet as it's going to get for something doing that.
This gun is actually completely ambidextrous. It ejects the shell casings out the bottom of the gun.
Aha!
Oh, it actually shows that in the game. Oh, those 22 shells are way too big, and it's like ejecting 5.56 shells. What the hell?
Those are
I never
huge.
noticed that before.
Those are big ass shells, huh?
Those are big 22 shells.
Those are massive.
Not
22
the
shells are
size of my
tiny.
finger. I don't entirely know what the sniper rifle is supposed to be based off of. The scope that that's on it is definitely based off of a British combat optic.
Mm-hmm.
But as for the rest of it, I don't entirely know what it's based off of. Interestingly, I did
It could be the Russian clone of the British combat optic.
just notice that this thing that looks like the foregrip is actually a bipod that looks like it's supposed to fold down. That's kind of funny.
Never noticed that before.
Yeah, I think that's supposed to be like a bipod for it. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to be based off of. I think it's just supposed to look like future science fiction rifle.
Well, it achieves that.
Yeah. The varmint rifle. Oddly, when you fire this gun, the animation in...
Actually, I think the drums are not spring-loaded, but manually indexed, so they should get quieter. So emptied in as the rounds aren't hitting each other anymore. Well, that's like when you're on the last line of... That's like when you're on the bottom line of the rounds. Otherwise, you're going to get, you know, a stack designed to hold, what, 5 rounds with only 3 in it? They're just going to be rattling up and down because they don't have a spring holding them down in place.
third person makes it look like it's a straight pull. Maybe it is. I have no idea. This could be a straight pull bolt action.
What do you mean straight pull?
So there's different types of bolt actions. The bolt action that you're probably thinking of is...
You lift up the lever, and then you pull it back.
Yeah, you lift up, pull backwards, push forwards, push down.
Yes.
That's what most bolt action rifles are.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for lifting up on the lever is that you are rotating and unlocking the bolt from the receiver.
Makes sense.
Straight pull bolt actions are you grab the bolt handle, pull it straight back, push it straight forward. That's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm. But that one's not a straight pull.
This one, I mean, it might be. From this angle, it isn't. From the third-person angle, it looks like it's a straight pull.
Does it?
That's a
that looks like crap.
that is a really slight rotation for a bolt action. I don't think I've ever seen any that are that short in terms of going up and down. That moment when to gun nerds realize that they need to do science to guns to get answers. That's like all of Kentucky Ballistics and Brandon Herrera's channels.
It's actually very close to the real one. It's the M3 grease gun.
Oh, yes.
I find it funny that there's a stock on this, but I refuse to use it.
It's not a very big stock, though. What is this, a stock for ants?
It's collapsed right now. I don't know why I refuse to bring the stock. Oh, the stock is welded in place. Okay, the ATF got to this gun and they insisted it was a pistol. Oh, that is actually interesting.
Hmm?
This lever right here on the side, that is indicative.
That bolt should be back here if you're gonna fire it. That bolt needs to be back here. It is an open bolt gun. So when you charge it, that goes back and it stays back.
That this is a first generation grease gun.
Ooh.
That is the cocking lever. It basically is connected to a linkage on the inside so that when you load the gun, you pull that lever backwards, and that's what pulls the bolt backwards.
Mm-hmm.
That increased the cost of manufacturing this gun.
Okay.
So they very quickly got rid of that and just drilled a hole into the side of the bolt that you shove your finger in there and pull the bolt backwards.
Wow.
So I find it interesting that when you first equip this gun, the bolt is actually all the way forward, which means that there is nothing chambered in it, because this is an open bolt submachine gun.
Okay.
Basically, when this gun fires, the bolt has to move forward, it picks up a shell casing, chambers it, and then fires it immediately. So it's interesting to me that when you equip this weapon, the bolt is all the way forward, and then when I reload it, now the bolt is locked to the rear, and the little lever is backwards.
What?
And that's how it should be normally when it's
What?
ready to fire.
So, the first time you equip it, it's incorrectly got a door open?
The bolt is incorrectly all the way forward, and somehow it's ready to fire.
But it was firing with a closed bolt earlier, but that's not how the gun works?
No, that is definitely not how the gun works.
What?
How can you fire a bullet out of a gun if the chamber's open?
So you can see the bolt right there. You see just the edge of it.
Yes.
When you fire it, that's going to move forwards. It's going to pick up a round from the magazine, put the round into the barrel, and then it's going to fire it the moment it's closed.
Whoa. Okay, looking at this gun with what you just said, it seems like the magazine should be further back.
Yeah, these don't have a very long barrel. The reason this gun is so long and the magazine is so far forward is because you have a very heavy bolt, and then you also have a big old frickin' bed spring that's compressed back here, and that's what pushes the bolt forwards.
Very primitive system by today's standards.
It's incredibly
There are still modern guns built to do exactly that because it's cheap and easy to do. The fact that firing as an anime is also a bit of a thing, true.
primitive, but the advantage of having just a straight blowback gun is that it's cheap. And it's very easy to manufacture.
This gun definitely does look cheap.
The grease gun was basically manufactured out of a piece of tube stock and folded steel.
It wouldn't have surprised me if you told me that this gun was originally made from old cans of grease.
The reason it's called a grease gun is because of its similarity to a gun that dispenses grease that you use for lubricating things.
Or a caulk gun.
Its actual designation is submachine gun 45 caliber,
Nah.
which this one is in 9mm.
Oh, so
Oh, yeah, it is
there's
an
a
animated.
tracer, I see.
Yeah.
Not all of them are tracers.
No, not all of them. Just occasionally you see one just zip out of there.
Half of them seem to have tracers.
To me, it feels like it's random. Oh, look at that! You can actually see the bullets! Oh, that's so cool! They actually did that!
Nobody's gonna see it normally, but
Yeah, you'll never see that normally, but that's really interesting. You can actually see the inside of the barrel in there. If I remember correctly, the M3 grease gun is a double feed magazine, which is wrong for what's in the image there, but it's fine, because, I mean, who the hell is actually gonna do this? Pew, 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 pew. I'm just having fun
What?
now.
What just happened?
you have a newfound appreciation for this gun.
They did a really good job modeling this one. I'm pleasantly surprised with how well they modeled this. I do find it funny. Oh,
Uh-oh.
Lord, it's disappeared.
Uh-oh.
Credit where it's due, they did a very good job modeling this gun. I love that they actually put the little sling swivels on it, too. This thing right here on the back and that thing right there on the front, those little loops, those are actually the sling swivels for this gun.
If you had a sling.
I also love that in the first-person reloading animation, you shove your finger into the port and pull it backwards.
Oh, yeah? Do you actually do that thing?
Yeah, see, look.
Oh. Yeah, there's no charging handle on that side.
Yep.
You just put your finger in the frickin' chamber hole.
You just put your finger into the chamber, grab onto the little hole that's in there, and just rip that thing backwards.
Just diddle the bolt and off you go.
Off you go. Wow, I have actually discovered more about this gun. I've played this game for this long, and I learned a bunch about this gun that I didn't know was in this game.
Just take a moment to examine it and appreciate it.
I can really appreciate the work they put into that.
And tomorrow, I'm gonna do a rant about all the game's energy weapons.
Okay.
I don't know anything about them, but it's not gonna stop me.
I mean, I don't know anything about him either, so it'll all be new to me.
We can bathe in the ignorance together.
Yay! Bathe in the ignorant. Bathe in the waters of life.
Bathe in the ignorance of life.
Okay.
How do pulse slugs work, Zach?
I have no idea. Maybe like taser shotgun shells.
Hey.
Those are actually a thing.
Really?
There's taser shotgun shells. You know how tasers normally when you fire the taser, the little
I've
bars
seen
come
those.
out
Those are kind of fun.
something?
Yes.
A taser shotgun shell is basically that entire thing contained inside a shotgun shell.
Neat.
So it's a less lethal shotgun shell that just has a bunch of taser barbs sticking out of the end of it.
Sure, we'll assume that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to take a very short break. And then we're going to do some Spyro for however long my energy lasts tonight.